Hello you, Nick here for the other 10% again. Today I'm going to be playing Oxygen Not Included. Now I've got about 1,000 hours of play logged with this game on Steam. One of the slight depressing things on Steam is that obviously it shows you how many hours you played in the game. I should add though that those 1,000 hours don't mean I'm any good at it. They just mean that I've been plugging away at it for a really long time. I enjoy these sorts of games. I'm a big fan of sort of god-ish games, but I'm not really very good at them. And this is also the first time I'm playing Oxygen Not Included since its official release. It got an official release after I think 2 years of being sort of tested and being pre-released. So now it's officially launched, and apparently there have been quite a lot of changes to it since. You can see here I've got my previous asteroid sinkhole got as far as cycle 1450, which is the longest I've ever run a game, but apparently it's changed quite a lot. This game it looks really whimsical, as you can see from the graphics on screen at the moment. It's got a really cartoony, hand-drawn aesthetic, as the developers have used before on Don't Starve and stuff like that. The developers of Clay, K-L-E-I, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. But I find it's quite hard. I don't think it's just that I'm not very good. I think it's quite hard. It's basically, you've got these little guys, they're called dupes or duplicates, and they are clones effectively. They are stranded on an asteroid, and you have to kind of keep them alive and do experiments and stuff like that. I've never quite got as far as experiments. I've only ever got as far as managing to keep them alive this long. So I'm going to dive in, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for no sweat, because it's no fun for any of us if I just die almost straight away. And I think, see, this is new. You didn't used to get to choose any of this stuff. Quantities of unpotable salt water. Yeah. I think, to be honest, I'll probably start with something really straightforward. Yeah, some of these look really exciting, actually. Temperatures on Iridium are much higher than... Yeah, maybe not there. No, I think I'm going to go with basic, to be honest. It's stable and has no unusual features, so approximately like me. Go into the game settings. Yeah, let's keep it relatively easy for now. But I'm going to leave sandbox mode off. Okay. Ooh, this is pretty. Didn't used to look like this. Should apologise for my voice as well. This is what it sounds like, unfortunately. I am sort of constantly coming down with a cold, but I can't. That's not why I sound like this. I've just got a monotonous voice, I'm afraid. I'm going to name the colony the monkey hole, and that's approximately named after the first podcast I did with some friends. Now, so it's not cheating necessarily to do this. A lot of these are options it didn't used to give you before, but I'm not going to start with the 3 default guys, because one thing that makes it no fun when you're starting out is these particular traits. binge eater, vomiter, and destructive. They all make it quite difficult to play with stressed out duplicants. Once they get stressed out, they start just knackering things or getting through all of your resources. Ugly Crier, on the other hand, is better because basically when they get depressed, they just cry until they starve to death. But they don't make a mess. Not much of a mess anyway. He snores loudly, which is going to make him a bit annoying. Yeah, okay. Abe and his stupid noodle arms. Ooh, well, he's good at making food. And he's good at construction. So there are. I'll look at the traits. This isn't really a tutorial so much as a playthrough, but I'll look at the traits once we're in the game. But these are okay. Athletics is pretty useful because it just means your little dude Hassan will run around pretty fast, and get things done pretty fast. You can see there. Also, strong creativity isn't necessarily that useful. But no, the athletics is going to be quite good. Right, so... Ooh. Okay. And Abe's a good builder, which is going to be useful. And let's see who we got over here. I do not need vomiters. Not right now. And Max is pretty handy. Oh, and he's got a handy name as well. So what I'm going to do is... I'm going to call this guy James Momb. And this guy John. Let's see how long I can keep them alive. And Max, I'm just going to leave him how he is because I have a favourite podcasting colleague called Max already. Right, so he's good at ranching, looks after animals, and he's pretty strong. And he's a quick learner. That does sound like Max. Let's embark. And what I'll probably do on this video is... Ooh. I've awoken at target location, but colonization efforts have already hit a hitch. Dang. They always become trapped many miles underground instead. The thing is, they're attaching a story to it. Although the conditions are not ideal, it's imperative that I establish a colony here and begin mounting efforts to escape. But I don't think we'll be able to see. No, you can see the vast blackness of this asteroid. I'm going to pause it for now. The vast blackness of this asteroid, and then we're here. Normally, when you do reach the surface, it's just the cold vacuum of space anyway. So that's that. It's nice. It's nice that they're attaching storytelling elements. I don't know if you noticed as well, but when they all appeared, it said "A New Hope," because there were lots of funny little references to like geek favorite things. This is actually a pretty basic asteroid. So we've got algae, which is really useful for making air at the beginning. You can see we've got oxygen here, and at the moment there's probably quite a lot of oxygen. Carbon dioxide starts to get generated pretty quickly once you've got the game running. Then you've got these little guys, they're shine bugs, who are providing light. Then we've got various sorts of plants, which I'm sure we'll look at in a minute. Muckroot is very important early in the game because basically it's just food. And then we've got water, and we've got our little dupes. And up here it tells us in the top left how many cycles we've got, our population, A stress level, that'll get high really quickly probably because I'm not great. How many calories of food they've got, and there's a speed and all that building stuff. It doesn't seem to have changed all that much. Okay, so we've got our overlay of oxygen, and yeah, there's a little bit around. The thing is, these little guys, they're clearly not human. They're kind of better than human. They're a little bit more resilient than we are. There's no power yet. Temperature is a nice temperature. Things you really need to, one of the things you need to worry about is your asteroid getting too hot, basically your base getting too hot. And this is quite new. So only a couple of upgrades ago this came in. So you can quickly see what sort of items you've got. Okay, filtration medium. Now, the darkness doesn't really impact, as it says there, it doesn't really impact on the duplicates very much. Duplicants, sorry. And we haven't got any plumbing. Negative decor does kind of bum them out. That's true. Don't need to worry too much about germs yet, although, nope, it's just oxygen. And there's all the plants. Cool, cool. Right. So what are we going to do? Well, first we need to give them somewhere to go to the toilet. And then we need to get some source of oxygen, although it's not that necessary at the moment. I'm going to just get rid of these notes on the duplicants. Let's see if I can do anything with them yet. So they all start with 0 points. Now this has changed quite a lot over the last year or so that I've been playing this game. You can see that they get a little bonus on learning certain things. Yeah, I feel like I'm still not 100% sure about this whole skills and jobs change that they've made to it, but we'll get into that later. Okay, skills, just done it again. And you've got a lot of access to their priorities, but at the moment I'll just leave them all fairly blank for now. Ooh, they've moved the schedule so that it's much more prominent. Okay, so first things first, I need to get them a toilet. So let's start these guys digging out in this direction. In this direction. Now, my tendency with these sorts of games is to try and do too much at once. I'm going to try and do a bit less of that this time. Because I don't imagine it's loads of fun to watch. I love the animation, I love the style of this game. It's really basic, but it's really pleasing. James is digging away over there. Actually, while I remember... I'm going to put the guy who sleeps really, really loud. And I'm going to put him on a slightly different schedule. It's John Mom. I'm going to put him on a slightly different schedule than the rest of the characters. So that he's not disrupting people. He's not sleeping at the same time as they are. So... I guess I could literally just... have him asleep. Have them having the same downtime as the rest of them. And then... actually... bath time... bedtime, and then work. And put him on that schedule. So, I mean, they'll be awake. Hopefully there'll be a bed for him by the time he needs to go to sleep. So, as you can see, as I started freeing up these resources by digging, I started getting all of these building options down the bottom here. And the first thing we really need is some toilets. Now, where's there a source of water? I think I'll put the toilets here. And I'll put them in a little indent so that if someone has an accident, it's not going to cause too many problems. Okay, and I guess I'd better just do some really rudimentary, probably quite ugly plumbing here. I'm going to try not to be too precious in these early stages. So, to begin with, these guys start with, they're quite full. They've got quite a few calories in them. So we've got a few days before food really needs to be an issue, I think. They're not very comfortable because there's been a very slight change in temperature. I wonder if it's just the water. I don't know. It's strange. Okay. And there, you see, they can handle being underwater quite nicely as well, actually. I think what I'm going to try and do is I'll start out trying to keep things fairly tidy. You can see up here that the day is passing very, very slowly. And we'll put everything in there. cancel this. See, one of my big problems is with playing these sorts of games is I have a tendency to get really fidgety and pedantic really early on. So I'm going to try not to do that quite so much this time. I do need to just give them somewhere to sleep. Oh dear. I forgot that I've got John Mom sleeping on a different schedule. Look at that animation. That's changed. They've made that a lot more obvious. What I might do is, at some point I might give him his own room. In fact, I might plan out for them to have their own bedrooms, because you do actually benefit from giving them their own rooms. Six, 7, 8. This be a minimum of 12. These guys are already eating. My goodness. I guess they are hungry. Okay. Max is the first to go to the toilet. Look at how shy they are and then how happy. My goodness. What I don't have at the moment is an option for them to... Oh, okay. Should have maybe given them a wash basin. Okay. So James and Max are going to go to sleep. See, a little bit of snoring's fine, isn't it? It's absolutely fine. I feel like there are some people who could stand to hear that. It's perfectly natural. You're breathing, you've not got as much control of what your nose is doing and everything. A little bit of snoring is perfectly normal. Although you, John, Mom, your snoring is a moral failing, I'm afraid. You need to get that sorted. You can get those little strips across the top of your nose, or maybe get surgery. Although, I don't know, maybe it's awkward and nobody's ever told him. Well, that seems unlikely, doesn't it? So, someone's going to have to bring water to that. What I'm going to do with this is, with these, you can set the direction so they only wash their hands when they're coming back from the toilet. John Mond is working hard at it. Because I haven't set priorities or anything yet, you can see these guys are keeping things kind of tidy. Now that's probably not going to be, that's probably going to be quite untenable. before long. But for now it's okay that they're keeping things kind of clean, because there's not loads to do for all of them. The colony will exhaust their supplies without a new food source. Microbe mushers can be built from the food tab. So what I'm going to do is, in the interest of keeping things relatively simple, I'm going to put the food right near the water. And that's going to need some power, so for now I'll put the power right next to it as well. Now that's not a great setup long term, because things will heat up quite quickly around here, but I'll try not to leave it for too long before doing something. Also, wiring's really ugly in this game. They've got a... as I said before, negative decor tends to wind these guys up quite a lot. So I'll want to do something about that eventually, but right now it's okay. I think what I'm going to do is, I'm going to make James Momb the primary builder. And Max the primary tidier. It's unfortunate because James Momb is also pretty good at cooking as well. And what I'll do is, each individual item also has a priority attached to it. So rather than putting one person in charge of keeping things powered, I'm going to just up the priority on it so that it's slightly higher priority than anything else. And I'll up the priority on the food as well. And for now the options are not good. So we've got mush bars, lice loaf or tofu. Mush bars are the only things we can make, and the reason they're the only things we can make is because they're an edible putrefied mud slop. They are preferable to starvation, but only just barely. And that's because they're 75 kilograms of dirt to 75 kilograms of water, totaling 800 calories. Let's make it so that we've got six of those in stock to begin. And the last thing it's telling us to make is an oxygen diffuser. And at this stage in the game, oxygen diffusers are just the best way to make oxygen. There's already oxygen coming out of these blocks. These are called oxalite. There's pre-existing oxygen in this asteroid, which is kind of lucky. But yeah, we do need to create an oxygen source. Now, the oxygen diffuser requires algae to run and electricity, which means that it's not endlessly useful. Oh, but I think I maybe have run out of resources to make it already. Yeah, so I need some metal ore. I'm gonna put this here. And I'm putting it down here in the hope that basically this area will fill up with oxygen and then it'll push oxygen out into the rest of it. At the moment, the gases do move through ladders, I think, but they don't move through them as well as they could. So yeah, actually, let's do this now. I'll create a little gap for the gas to get through. Look at them beavering away, they're so happy. That's fairly basic stuff. Don't cook with old ingredients, basically. Don't try and make meals with rotted food. You can see that everything's powered. And when you go into the power overlay, you can see how much power everything uses. This can be a bit of a fidget. Managing power is actually quite fidgety, and I find it quite a frustrating but also interesting part of the game. These games thrive on frustrating but interesting gameplay, I think, to be honest. But yeah, I think your average circuit can only really have 1,000 watts, I guess, going through it at any given time before the wires start to overload and start breaking. Ooh, I didn't make anything of the fact that the first day had passed, the first cycle, and now we're on the second cycle. That's exciting. You can see this battery's charging up. Hello, John. He's beavering away. Very busy while the rest of them sleep. Now, I don't know how well the capture is managing with the animation style or anything, but this runs really smoothly. It looks really smooth and cartoony on my screen. It's really cute. Cycle 3 begins. I'm going to get them to sweep those up. These guys are pretty good at keeping themselves occupied if they need to. There are certain things you have to tell them to do, like you have to tell them what food you want and how much of it you want and stuff like that, but otherwise they'll keep themselves occupied if stuff needs doing. So they will generally tidy up after themselves. given the opportunity. As you can see, this pocket of carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide always sinks. I think of all of the elements in the game, of all of the gas elements in the game, carbon dioxide always sinks to the bottom, and then chlorine tends to sit on top of it. There'll be chlorine later in the game, and oxygen tends to sit roughly in the middle. I don't know how clever the way gas moves around in the game actually is, but it seems fairly normal to me that you'll get these odd pockets of gas that's slowly drifting on its way down, and this will become a carbon dioxide pocket, but hopefully everyone will be oxygen head height, at least until I have time to sort that out. Okay. There are loads of animals, creatures in the game. Shine bugs are the prettiest, probably. There are a few different sorts of them as well. Let's sweep that up. So, I definitely need a little bit more copper. Aha, so now I've got my research station. Where am I going to put that? So, I think when you... Oh, it's already started to expand out a little bit. When you build something and then destroy it again, I think there is a bit of a cost to doing that in terms of how many resources you get back out of it, which is why I'm being a bit careful about trying to decide where I want to put my research station. But I might just be being a little bit too twitchy about that. Maybe I should just put it here next to the oxygen production, so that I only have to worry about one set of sustainable power for now. Oh. I should try and avoid my guys getting too wet too much of the time, because they do actually suffer a little bit when that happens. You can, if you click on them, you can see that they have these buffs that add stress to them. At the moment these guys are pretty chilled out, so they're okay. But that won't last forever. So I need to keep an eye on that. See, I've already made it so ugly down here. There's no way of decorating yet. So, now that I have a research station, I can start researching. Whoa, this has changed. They have really stretched this out. I don't know where to start. Oh my goodness. This is massive now. Right, so I think what I need to begin with is probably plumbing, maybe? Toilets? Sanitation? This gets pretty exciting when you start moving gases and stuff like that around. You've got your decontamination. This is tricky. I guess I kind of need to... Let's get plumbing sorted. Let's get toilets sorted, I think. It's quite clever. So these things that have more than one dependency, if you click on them, it'll work through and research everything. What you can see here is the amount of points in novice research and then in advanced research that you need to get. But obviously at the moment I can't get to any of the advanced research stuff because I don't have the supercomputer. I wonder at which point it was decided to have most of a tech tree visible. Which has become quite a common thing, and it almost makes more sense from a story, like a narrative perspective, that you can't see that stuff, doesn't it? But never mind. I think the game, to be honest, is quite complicated enough without them hiding a bunch of that stuff from you. This is quite a nerve-wracking message that comes up: insufficient oxygen generation, but all it means is that we're consuming, we consumed more in this cycle than we did in the last cycle. Obviously, we just got here and we only just started producing oxygen. So now it's at the maximum gas pressure, so we can't produce any more because our space is full. You can see it's got what, 1,730 grams of oxygen per square, and it normally tops out at about 2 kilos. Oh look, so this is the printing pod, and every couple of days, I think it is, it'll start buzzing and it'll say new printables are available. So what? Okay, this is new. So hardwired imperatives. I guess it's putting all of this here because this is like the HQ, but what I really need, and all that used to be here, was the choose a blueprint. So I can either choose to get a new duplicant in, and Ari here is an ugly crier, but they consume a lot more air than anyone else does. Mouth breather. Don't really want that yet, so I'll leave Ari to it. So I guess I don't think we need water yet, but the hatchling eggs might be quite useful. So early on in the game, I think when I first got it, about a year ago, I think, the hatchlings, you'd quite often, there are these creatures called hatches, and the duplicants and the creatures would quite often antagonize each other and get into fights with each other. I think I might be remembering it wrong, to be honest, but I think it was partly because something that the duplicants were doing was perceived as a threat by the creatures, so they'd attack. But now they tend to be fine alongside each other most of the time, I think. And all of the creatures in this game, or nearly all the creatures in this game, have some sort of ecological downside or benefit, normally based on what they consume and what they excrete. And in this case, the hatches excrete solid coal, which can be really useful once you've got coal power up and running. I don't use a lot of coal power because it can heat up your environment really quickly, and it produces gases that, unless you're managing it quite well, you know, you're taking the gas and using it somewhere else. I can't remember what it produces. Is it carbon dioxide? No, I think it's natural gas actually. Yeah, it can. You can start choking out your duplicants quite quickly if you're not careful. But the hatches are quite cute to have around. They provide meat if we need it later on as well. So, but it's probably going to take them a little while to hatch. So what's that? What that's given me is 3 hatchling eggs. And if I click on one, you can see that their incubation is at 0.1. But he's just taking them away and he's putting them in there. So didn't actually want that to happen. So I'm going to say no to putting critter eggs in these. This is quite cool that you can... in the storage, you can opt to not... You can filter out what you want in there and what you don't want in there. It's already dropped it there. That does mean now that if the hatchlings hatch, they are going to just be stuck in this little space unless I do something with them. But we'll look into that later. I think what I'll do is... we'll get as far as me putting in some plumbing, some proper plumbing, rather than these horrible outhouses. No, actually, because that can be a bit of a faff. I think we'll just get as far as these happy little guys researching their first research thing. Maybe we'll get to day 5. We'll get to cycle 5. That's what we'll do. There we go, chomping away. Pretty much everything in this game has some sort of statistics. Look, Max is not happy. And the reason they're not happy is that basically what they're eating tastes like a combination of dirt and water. Because it is a combination of dirt and water. Oh, their cleaning thing looks new. Oh. Now the follow cam can look a bit juddery. You can. That's another thing. You can show their navigation, and it'll show you where they're going to go in terms of what they might have to do. Well, I think where they can go, this is showing us. I'll stick the follow cam on him and just see if it's a bit juddery. But everything in this game has a set of values, and yeah, the animation starts to break a little bit when you're watching the follow. So I'll stop doing that. Now 2 of them are idle, so let's see if there's anything I can get them to do. There isn't really. I don't want to overproduce food because then you use up all of your resources and then the food can go bad. So, Hmm. Storage bins do have a bit of a negative effect on decor, don't they? It's not like loads though. I think I just have to wait till I've researched a little bit. I know, I might start just getting a sense of how big these bedrooms need to be. "12 tiles, minimum height 4 tiles. That minimum height thing is new. So I think I mentioned before that heat can be quite a tricky thing to manage in this game, and once you dig into an environment that's a bit warmer, it immediately starts to raise the temperature of your base, basically. So I have to work out some way of insulating that. Another thing I need to keep an eye on, because temperature can really start to come into its own when you're trying to farm, and you have to start farming food pretty quickly to become sustainable, really. I've got a lot of slime really near to me. The other thing you really need to be careful of is there's a thing in the game called slime lung, and basically if you have to create airlocks. Basically you want to avoid slime lung getting into your base or into your duplicants. You don't want them to like eat anything with it on or breathe any of it in, which is why we want to make sure they don't grab any of this algae, for example, and put it in the oxygen diffuser, because if memory serves, that immediately just starts pumping out slime lung infused oxygen, which is not something you want them to be breathing in. So yeah, so I think maybe I won't start digging into this without thinking. Maybe I'll go away and have a bit of a plan before I subject you to a completely knackered base from the off. But yeah, there's plenty of space to be digging into. Maybe I could just be mining. I could do some mining, couldn't I? Yeah, I'm trying to leave these muck roots to their own devices as well, because they're it's quite useful to have them buried, because they can be a source of food if things get a bit desperate later on. And these bits of cracked ground, they've quite often got things in them, and quite often that stuff is muckroot. Now, as long as it stays submerged, it doesn't go bad. Once it's revealed, then it will start going bad, and then it seems like a trivial thing to worry about at this point. Muckroot doesn't give them an awful lot of calories. Let's see. Muckroot. Can't be replanted. Once they're gone, they're gone. They only get 800 calories from them, and the quality is grisly because it's a seedless fruit with an upsettingly bland aftertaste. But yeah, better to leave them buried, because you don't want them going bad. Basically, I've had many a game clutched back from the jaws of like everyone in my base starving to death, because I was able to quickly dig up some muckroot and feed them. You can put these little guys through so much though, it's so funny. Right, so yes, let's get down to this as well. A lot of this is quite, like, this is basically busy work. They don't need to be doing all this. It's just rather than leaving them idle while they're so happy, it seems like a good idea to get them working. Let's speed things along. When I first started playing the game, they didn't have a lot of these social buffs that they get, but when they're near each other, they socialise quite nicely. I don't think the mechanics have them disliking each other or anything. I think they're all quite friendly, and they like being around each other and chatting, which is quite good. You can see that Max's skills are getting a little bit better. A little bit better as he goes as well. I think his science is probably 0. Or maybe it wasn't, actually. He started out as a quick learner. But every now and then it will show that his stats have gone up a little bit. Oh. Let's get you to bed. We're going to do much more. Oh, I see what's happened here. Right. So there was some oxalite there, and it's basically the oxalite dwindled away, and I built stuff on it. So yeah, the oxalite dwindled away, so now the bed's unusable because it's basically balanced on nothing. There's gravity when it comes to the gases and when it comes to stuff dropping down, but buildings will just stay there in place if you don't do anything with them. Right, so what I just did there was I set a yellow alert on getting that done. They'll ignore downtime, and they'll ignore sleeping, and they'll ignore like food urges or whatever to do something that's at yellow or red alert. Okay, John's cleaning up. I think yeah, I guess that makes sense. There's some food germs and stuff knocking about on there, which is why he's still cleaning up there. You can let it get pretty dirty though. Oh, I didn't even notice this. When we researched plumbing, all of these other options came up. And they're including liquid splitters, which I think used to be a mod that you had to get. Which are quite useful. There's all sorts of different ways of moving liquids around. Right, so that's the beginning of cycle 5. That's the end of this first video. Oh, insufficient oxygen generation again. I hope you've enjoyed seeing me muddle through with my first game of this. I don't get any more organised than this. I'm basically always muddling through. So, if you enjoyed this, please keep an eye out for the next video. I don't imagine these are going to take very long to come out because I love playing this game too much, probably. And so I'm going to want to be playing it again. And nothing's real unless it's going up on the internet, really. You know, you haven't really done it unless you posted it somewhere, is how I think it works. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time. Bye.